hello there. How are you? Good to see you. Now remember, I'm going to need some help with this story, so I hope you've got your bag and your props already, because you were brilliant last time, so thank you so much. Well, just in case you've forgotten, my name is Claire, and this is the story of the Elves and the Shoemaker. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Once upon a time, a long time ago, back in the days when the world was still full of magic, there was a shoemaker. Now this shoemaker, sad to say, despite being a very good shoemaker, had fallen on hard times. He lived in a little flat above his shop, shoe shop, and his workroom. And he lived there with his wife and family. We've joined him when he's feeling very down in the dumps indeed. Woe is me, boys and girls. Woe is me. I don't know what to do. I've only got enough money to buy one piece of leather, to make one pair of shoes. And once I've sold those shoes, well, I'm going to have to use the money to buy food for the family. And after that, oh, I don't know. What is to become of us, boys and girls? What is to become of us? Well, the poor shoemaker. What was to become of him and his family? The shoemaker went to his workroom and prepared to make shoes the next morning when the light was better. He went to his workbench. Everybody, get your workbench. Oh, ho, ho. They were nice and smooth, beautiful. And atop his workbench, he placed the shoe templates. 1, 2. You got them? And with the shoe templates there atop his workbench, he placed his final piece of leather. He gave the leather a final sniff and placed it there, oh, on the workbench. The shoemaker and his wife went to bed. And despite being troubled, oh, what is to become of us? What is to become of us, boys and girls? Despite being troubled, the shoemaker and his wife very quickly fell fast asleep. You got your blanket? The next morning, the shoemaker got up. Oh! Ready to start work to make the shoes. But when he got there, oh my, oh, he couldn't believe his eyes. For there were perfectly formed and ever so beautiful a pair of shoes. Everyone get your shoes? Your favorite shoes? Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes in rows and rows. Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, rows and rows and rows. The shoemaker examined the shoes. Most delicate of work, the tiniest of stitches. Beautiful, beautiful craftsmanship. He placed the shoes proudly in his window and waited to see if anyone would buy them. In walked a very wealthy gentleman who'd spotted the shoes in the window. Everyone get your bells for the shop bell. My dear man, I really do like your shoes in the window. I must say, I must have them. I'm prepared to pay you twice the price. Well, the shopkeeper could not believe his luck. This was amazing, for now not only could he pay for food for his family, but he could now get 2 pieces of leather to make 2 pairs of shoes. So that night, just as he always did, he went to his workbench. Everyone get your workbench. And he placed his shoe templates upon the workbench. And this time he got 2 pieces of leather. 1, 2. And went to bed. For the next morning he would rise and make 2 pairs of shoes. Get your blanket, everyone. Shopkeeper and his wife are in their bed. And very quickly, as is their habit, they fell fast asleep. The shoemaker got up the next morning, ready to start work. Well, he couldn't believe his eyes. For there, rather than 2 pieces of leather, were 2 beautiful pairs of shoes. Everyone get your shoes? 1, 2. You ready? Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes in rows and rows. Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes in rows and rows. Well, the shoemaker could not believe his luck. Oh, wow, thought the shoemaker. This is marvellous. They placed the 2 pairs of shoes in the shop window, and sure enough, very quickly, people were arriving to buy the shoes. My dear man, what workmanship! What wonderful, wonderful shoes. I must have those shoes at once. And so it was. Every night the same thing. The shoemaker would lay out his template upon his workbench and lay out the leather, and then in the morning, as if by magic, there were shoes of the finest quality. Well, very soon word spread throughout the kingdom, and all sorts of people would arrive at his door wanting to buy his wonderful shoes. My dear man, I must have a pair of your shoes. Why, I hear the wonderful. The leather is absolutely sublime, and the craftsmanship, oh my. Please, may I have 3 pairs? Now, this poor shoemaker was poor no more, for he had all of this custom, and all paying a premium on this wonderful shoes. But how did they get there? He often wondered, who's making these shoes? So one night, the shoemaker and his wife decided not to go to bed, and they hid behind a little curtain there in the workroom. They waited and they waited, and it wasn't until the stroke of midnight, boing, 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 they heard a tiny little ring of the shop door. Everyone very gently. Then maybe get your board. They heard the sound of tiny little footsteps. And they couldn't believe their eyes. For there, trying to make their way up the leg of the workbench table were two tiny, tiny little men, no more than 3 inches high. Oh my! The tiny little men got to work. All right, now where's our bag? First of all, we're going to need our needle and thread. Okay, everyone, let's get our needle and thread. Here it is. The little men got to work and began to stitch ever so furiously, very quickly indeed. Here we are, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Not only did they manage to stitch with the most wonderful precision and wonderful speed, but they also, everybody get your hammer. They tapped away. Tap, tap this away, tap, tap that away, tap, tap all the way, my, oh my. Tap, tap this away, tap, tap all the way, tap, tap all the way, my, oh my. Tap, tap this away, tap, tap that away, tap, tap all the way, my, oh my. Until finally, well, in fact, no time at all, there were beautiful pairs of shoes. The little men, only 3 inches high, disappeared almost as quickly as they'd entered. The shoemaker and his wife stared at each other. Elves! The shoemaker and his wife were so pleased at discovering the identity of the people that were helping them. But they really wanted to do more. I mean, they wanted to say thank you. It was a time when people were very thankful and grateful for what they had. Everybody? There were special trees. And there were decorations. You know what time of year it was? It was Christmas. It was Christmas, a time to be very thankful for what one has. If only we could say thank you. If only we could say thank you to the shoemaker. But what on earth do you give an elf? I mean, they've no cause for money and... I've got it. said the shoemaker's wife. I know the very thing. For those little men, well, they were very scantily clad. I think they're going to be very cold this winter. I'm going to make them a scarf and a hat. She got out her needle and thread and began to stitch and sew until finally 2 little hats and 2 little scarves were made. That night, instead of laying out the templates and the leathers, they laid out a little hat and a little scarf for each of the little men. And the shoemaker and his wife hid behind the curtain to see what would happen next. Well, on the stroke of midnight, boing, 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 they heard the little ring, very gentle. You've got your bells, very gentle, of the shop door. And get your bench. And they heard the pitter-patter of tiny feet. And they saw the little men make their way up, up the workbench leg. And there, to their surprise, was a scarf and hat, one for each. Ho-ho-ho! They put on the scarf and they put on the hat, and they were filled with much delight. Ho-ho! Marvellous, they cried. Ho-ho! And they started to dance. All right, everybody. There in that workroom, they began to dance. Get your shoes ready. Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes and rows and rows. And they danced into the shop. Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes and rows and rows. And they whirled about. Magic in your shoes, magic in your toes, magic all around, shoes and rows and rows. And all the shoemaker and his wife heard was a gentle ring of the bell. The elves leaving through the shop door, and the elves were never seen again. The shopkeeper, the shoemaker, well, he had to make the shoes himself, their own. But he was a very good shoemaker. And although his stitches were not quite as neat and tiny as the elves, no one seemed to notice. He was no longer a poor shoemaker. Oh no. He was well-to-do indeed. And his family and the shoemaker lived happily ever after. And that is the end of the story. Take a bow, everyone. Take a bow. Bye.